Hello and welcome back to the studio. I was originally going to start with a tutorial with coming back and into the school year and getting back into the groove, but I'm struggling with that a little bit. I've actually focused more in all of my creative energies has been in the garden, which has been great and just a different experience. And I've learned some things from growing and handling those plants and just playing around with that style of design that I'm really excited to implement into my more fine art style design. And I'd love to share that with you. If you'd be interested, let me know in the comment section down below. But everything just seems to be a mess and I feel like I need to quiet my mind. And so I've been focusing on doing more therapeutic style art as I'm like trying to get back into it. I just found that I sit down and I need more peace rather than more work. And maybe it's just the phase of life I'm in, maybe it's the stuff that's going on in the world, but I don't have a real tutorial to share with you today, but something I just kind of wanted to pick up. I just haven't been in the mood to pick up watercolor. While I really enjoy it, pencils, colored pencils, and graphite are more where I feel at home. But I do love to explore watercolor. However, I did pull out these oil pastels that I got just to kind of play around with and try, and I've actually really enjoyed it. Working with a higher quality oil pastel for the first time ever after many attempts of trying to get into oil pastels with cheaper quality is a totally different game. I only have, I think, 12 colors. It's a little bit brighter than I would normally work, but I've actually really enjoyed it. So I decided to record some of that process. I didn't catch it right from the beginning, but I thought, you know what? It has been so therapeutic for me and so helpful for me to just enjoy the artwork and the process. And I'm learning oil pastels. I feel like I'm starting to get my feet under me. It is very similar to colored pencil, which to me is very intuitive, where watercolor has always been hard. But if you'd be interested in more colored pencil or oil pastel, which I would say that they're close cousins, let me know down below and I will try to write down things that I'm noticing, things that I'm picking up so that I can share them with you in the future. But anyway, this video is going to be a little bit more vlog style. I recorded it kind of on a whim. I thought it might be helpful. I thought it might be soothing for you, just in case you are kind of feeling some of the unrest, some of the chaos of the September schedule, and also wanted a little bit of peace today. So I'm editing this video, and while I'm editing it, I'm realizing all these things that I want to share with you guys. So I guess that's what I say when I just can't help but teach, and I just really love teaching because I can't watch this and then not talk about it, even though I said this is going to be soothing and calming. Let's dive into some tips that I cannot wait to share with you. Now, because I have a limited color palette and I'm trying to capture these very creamy, very pale yellow flowers while still giving them some depth, it's a little bit tricky because I can't mix the colors on the palette before I add it to my paper. I have to mix it on the paper itself. So a lot of what I'm doing is I'm adding these undertones in here. So I went in with a full base of that lemon yellow, which is kind of the closest color other than white to what I'm going for. So I added in that yellow and then going in with deeper tones to get kind of those undertones. So we had the mandarin for the orange, anything that had a warmer glow to it. And then something that would be a little bit more subtle but still deep in the color would come in with that yellow ochre. Now you see I'm going in with a little bit more of the finer details, so a little bit of that burnt umber in some of our shadows. I added a little bit of green. I think it was just on my crayon on the oil pastel, so unfortunately that's a bummer, but it's okay. And then I'm going in, you can see it right here, with the white oil pastel, and if I had more colors I'd probably just go in with more of a creamy tone rather than the white and save the white for highlights, but I'm using that to blend it all together and bring the whole piece down in saturation, so it kind of makes it a pastel color but up in value so that it's lighter in order to get that tone that I want. And so it's kind of a formula where I'm just trying to add these in, but I'm still trying to do things like capture the shadow of the petal that's underneath of the one that is on top and just try and capture some of that movement into that change in here. Later on, as I go throughout this process, I become much looser and a little bit more painterly. And I think that in the end, as I get more accustomed to the oil pastels, it will be a little bit more impressionistic, a little bit looser, a little bit more wild, if you will, just because of the nature of the oil pastels. And if you'd be interested in hearing more of my thoughts, more of my process, seeing more pieces with the oil pastels, please let me know in the comment section down below. I am happy to make it. I'm going to continue creating these pieces, but I'm not going to go through the work of capturing it on video and editing it if you're not interested in seeing that. So let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, we'll try and get back to drawing and watercolor in the more traditional sense. But yes, I'm really excited to kind of dive into this. So here I'm adding some of this burnt umber in here, and you can't see it, but I'm just using my pinky to kind of blend that color in. There is a lot of yellow on my pinky, and so that helps to really knock down some of the intensity in that burnt umber. Now working on the center, I start with the burnt umber because I want, well, apparently I'm taking a break from it, but I started with the burnt umber when I went into the center because I wanted to kind of establish that shadow before I went in with the mandarin orange color. And that just kind of helped create a little bit of depth without it being on top of the orange, without it taking over a whole lot. So you'll see that in a second, but apparently I forgot to do that last petal. As a side note, I also found it helpful to use kind of this extra little piece in order to clean off my oil pastels. You could also use just like a rag, but the sponge-like texture seemed to help a lot. Now this part gets a little messy, and I do want the center to be very textured, and so I'm trying to like add layers of color. You'll see me add orange and then yellow. I might add a little bit of white. I go in with a little bit more of the brown, and just kind of mess around with everything, try and get the mess and the depth that I want. These are kind of inspired by, I believe it's like a lemon chiffon peony. I wasn't closely following any one reference. I was just kind of like looking up these peonies that I thought were just super beautiful, just a gorgeous pale yellow with these messy centers and very open, much more open than A lot of peonies are, where they'll just be full of petals. These had a very limited number of petals. But kind of to contrast the smoothness of the petals, I really wanted this texture to be very rough. And it was. There's a lot of, it's even raised quite a bit on off of the paper. Now for the stem, honestly, I don't know. I would solve this differently next time. It's just so difficult. I'd probably actually go in with a colored pencil if I want something to stand alone without adding any oil pastel around it to kind of finish up those edges. But I started with the brighter green, which is green medium, I believe. And then I went in with other colors to kind of desaturate and to soften. And I tried to just kind of smooth it with my finger, but it ends up being kind of thick and chunky. What ended up fixing it was this burnt umber. It really knocked down the saturation and made it less punchy on the page. I ended up going back, and you'll see me work on it later, but I decided, okay, it's there. I know where it's supposed to be. It won't be in the way of anything, but I didn't love how that was planned out. So I think in the future, I might actually go in with like an oil-based colored pencil instead for those finer details. And I think maybe the mixed media approach will work a little bit better. One thing you're going to see with a lot of these petals and these flowers that are more in the background is I start with a much deeper base. In fact, I just added, while I was sitting here, I was looking at the piece, and so I added another petal to this clump that is to the right-hand side and a little bit lower down. And I actually started with the yellow ochre, then added the lemon yellow on top, and I think kind of starting with the more desaturated tone and really just starting knowing it's going to be a deeper tone and a little bit less saturated really helped to kind of knock it in the background. I did have to go in still with some of that burnt umber in order to get it to the value, the deeper value, the shadow more that I wanted it to be, but I think that that really helped. Elsewhere, I'm not sure if I caught it on camera, but in some of the petals in the background, there's a little bit of green added in, and it kind of happened by accident. I believe I tried to put a leaf in and decided to nix the idea. I actually really liked how adding that cooler tone in there kind of added that shadow without it being brown or black, and kind of visually knocked it back. Now, like I was saying a minute ago, With petals that are going to be in the background, I'm going to have a much heavier emphasis on like the yellow ochre and the burnt umber, and much less on the white. And well, I still have the yellow in there because we still want that underlying hue for everything. But you see I'm adding in the burnt umber much more quickly. I don't have any white in this section at all. I do believe that I add it in later just to kind of add that creaminess in a little bit more. But really starting off with trying to establish these deeper, more desaturated tones, not extensively. Like we're not adding black in here. There's not like a deep shadow, but it's tucked away. It has a little bit less impact, and it's just going to read in the background. We want a full bouquet, but not every single flower can be the star of the show. Another way to create that natural hierarchy, other than having the more desaturated colors and the deeper tones in the background, is that anything that is in the foreground has more of those raw highlights. So you'll see me adding more white in here and blending it out much less. There'll be pure white on some areas of the petals just to show that highlight and kind of bring everything forward. And this is the same process from a slightly different angle while there's the reflection of the window. So maybe some of my pencil drawing details are a little bit harder to see because you're not behind my hand. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to kind of see what I'm doing and see the process repeated a little bit. I did have trouble with this petal because it was turned in the way that I drew it away from my light source. So trying to keep it light and bright while not having the highlights in the same places as they were on the other ones was a little bit more challenging. So you'll see I go in really quickly with the yellow ochre. I have a little bit less of the mandarin color, and we're pulling in more of that burnt umber, but still trying to give it some of that emphasis so that it is more of a foreground flower instead of it being in the background. Yeah, this was a little bit tricky, but I think we figured it out in the end. And then this is the final piece. As far as when I finished recording, I've actually added quite a bit more to it recently, just in the process of recording this and while I'm thinking about it. Now, a lot of the flowers have a slightly different style of application because I am still learning this, but I've really enjoyed the process of growing and exploring this, and I can't wait to see how my style continues to evolve. I hope that you enjoyed this process and that you are excited to learn oil pastels along with me. And if you are, be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comment section down below. And until next time, happy drawing!